What's going on, YouTube? Last night I made a Leafs CapFriendly page, and these are the exact moves that they need to make if they want to win the Cup this year. Check it out. It's an absolute work of art. Exactly, I titled it. Exactly what the Leafs should do. Let's get into it. Now, the first order of business, what you're going to want to do is sign Samsonov to a 1-year, $3.2 million contract. And the reason why Samsonov is going to accept 3.2 is because you're really going to sell him on the fact that, you got the majority of the starts this year, you got Woll backing you up, you're not splitting with Murray, so you're going to have the run of the net. And if you dominate again, then you're going to be going to UFA and you're going to be able to cash in. Maybe not with the Leafs, but you'll cash in. So you're going to want to just accept this 3.2, make it work, don't cause any problems. Beautiful, done. Next thing you're going to want to do is sign Dumba to a 1-year, $3 million contract. Clearly, Dumba's not getting term or money or both from any of the teams out there. So the incentive is come to Toronto, play with Morgan Riley on the top pair, Stanley Cup winning team. Then you're going to be able to cash in, get that long-term deal. Probably not with the Leafs, but doesn't matter. You're going to want to take advantage of this situation. Come on in. Done. Now, this is a deadline move. Let's ignore this for now. We'll get to it in a minute. But Toronto makes a trade with the Calgary Flames. Mr. Treliving gets that long D that he absolutely desires, and he's had it before. Let's check it out. Nikita Zadorov. Beautiful. 1.875 mil retained. That's 50% retained. We send TJ Brody back the other way. He's been there before. He can play in their top four. Nice rhyme. They can trade him at the deadline for prospect picks. Doesn't matter. Basically balances out. Same thing that they would do with Zadorov this year anyway. We give them Alex Steeves, who is a nice little prospect. He's ready to make the jump. Probably could play in their top 9. And a 5th-round pick. Seems like pretty good value, don't you think? Another move Toronto makes a trade with the Anaheim Ducks. We give them Connor Timmins and Calle Jarnkrok. Calle Jarnkrok can play in their top 9, left wing, center, right wing, doesn't matter. Fill in a hole for them. Connor Timmins, nice little offensive defenseman, prospect. He'll get more opportunity in Anaheim. They're really thin on defense right now. Can step right in. We just take 2 of their 3rd-round picks that they've acquired from other teams. They're already loaded on picks and prospects. They don't really need those 3rd-round picks. We're just trying to replenish our cookie jar a little bit. Beautiful. Now here's the massive deadline move. You might think it's crazy, but I think it makes sense. Toronto acquires Quinton Byfield, Jacob Dvorak, and King's 1st-round pick. Toronto sends back Nylander at $3 million retained. Now the reason this makes sense is that the Kings are loaded at center. They've got Kopitar for another couple seasons. They just got Pierre-Luc Dubois, and they got Philip Deneau locked up long-term. So there's really no room for Byfield at center with the Kings in the near future. He could play the wing, but they're pretty loaded at wing too. So I think he could be sacrificed. Jacob Dvorak is a 2nd-round pick this year, 6'5", 200-some pound type stay-at-home defenseman. The long D that Treliving's going to want with the Leafs for the future, and a 1st-round pick. The Kings receive William Nylander with $3 million retained to help get him under the cap for the Kings this season. His contract works out to about $3.9 million at that point. The only way this deal works is if the Kings have an agreement in place with Nylander to do a long-term extension prior to the deal being made. Also, the Kings, to get under the cap for this season, would probably have to move out Arvidsson and get some assets back, which would help replenish what they lost in the Nylander deal. And obviously, Nylander is a drastic upgrade over Arvidsson. I think this is a pretty fair value deal. You might think it's a little bit steep with what Toronto's receiving for Nylander, but I mean, worst case, you could take out the draft pick or lower it to a 2nd or a 3rd or something if you think that's too steep. But I think this is a good deal for both teams. Obviously, this would be very complex for the Kings because as they're receiving Nylander and working out a long-term deal with him, they would also need to have a deal in place with Arvidsson to be able to clear out his cap space as they're receiving Nylander. But Nylander is going to be an upgrade over Arvidsson. He's going to be $3.9 million with the salary retained, and Arvidsson's deal is like 4.7 or something like that. So in order to get the best value for Arvidsson and move him out probably to a competitive team that's also going to be tight against the cap, they would have to retain salary on Arvidsson, which they would be able to do when this deal takes place. But yeah, to have this all worked out at the same time would probably be really complex. But if they could figure that out, that would be great because it would be amazing for both teams. Now, another thing to mention here is that obviously Matt Murray got bought out, which between that and the prior deals that Toronto made allows them to have a ton of cap space going into the season and allows them to retain salary on this Nylander deal, which helps the Kings. Now, you might be wondering, why trade Nylander at all? Like, if this is a Stanley Cup winning team, doesn't he give your team the best chance to win? You might be able to re-sign him in the offseason, maybe he walks, but you won the Cup, right? But here's the beautiful part. Now, the reason why Toronto is okay with trading Nylander away for futures at the deadline, and actually I keep saying deadline, but really it's more of an in-season trade, probably like a couple months prior. The reason why they're okay with doing this is because Patrick Kane will be available again after recovering from his hip surgery somewhere around mid-season. And Toronto's able to offer him the deal of 1 year, $4.5 million, and the incentive is to play with Austin Matthews. But not only that, but what team that is going to be competing for a cup is going to be able to offer him $4.5 million? I don't think there's any other team out there that's going to be able to give him that. All right, now we're going to get into what the final cup-winning roster looks like. But first, let's just take a quick look at how replenished our draft is. Look at those picks. Beautiful. First thing to notice here quickly is we are under the cap. We have 299 cap space remaining, so we are good there. Now let's take a look at these lines because they're phenomenal. Tyler Bertuzzi, Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane. Unbelievable first line. Matthew Nyes, John Tavares, Mitch Marner. Unbelievable second line. The top six is probably the best in the league. Now this line's interesting. Max Domi, Quinton Byfield, Nick Robertson. I had Lafferty in the right wing spot on the third line there prior to the Patrick Kane and Nylander and Byfield moves. But now with Byfield here in the middle, Domi shifts over to left wing, Robertson shifts over to right wing. And the reason why Robertson's moving over to the right wing, because guess who's on the team now to help him be the best left-handed right winger? Patrick Kane. He is going to teach Nick Robertson the subtleties of how to dominate on the right wing. It's beautiful. Now, fourth line, Bobby McMahon. He's not waiver exempt, so he's kind of just a solid goal-scoring fourth liner. He can forecheck, play hard, chip in some goals on this line. David Kampf is in the middle. He's going to be the defensively responsible guy. And then Ryan Reeves, he's just going to be out there hammering people. It's beautiful. If you don't have Ryan Reeves in the lineup, then Lafferty obviously draws in. Or Lafferty can draw in at center or left wing. He kind of can play all around on the fourth line. So you can kind of just shift him in there. I think that's a beautiful line. And then you got the D pairings. You got Riley with Dumba for the top pair. Awesome. Zadorov with Klingberg. The long D, stay-at-home, hammering people kind of guy with the puck-moving offensive guy. Amazing. McCabe and Liljegren for the third pair. Awesome. And then you got Gio able to draw in sometimes too. And then Samsonov and Wool. Perfect lineup. Cup-winning team right here. What do you think? I think it's damn good. And now we get to the lovely comments from all the nice people on CapFriendly that take this site super seriously and get super defensive. They're like, hey, what? No! You can't do that! Hey! This person just says that there's no way they give that much up for Nylander. And then this person says, the Kings give up Byfield a first and their top draftee from this summer for 20 games of Nylander. You can't seriously think the Kings would even entertain that idea. The only way that I consider this is if Toronto extend Nylander for 8 more years before the trade and retain $3 million for the entirety. Really, buds? No, that's crazy talk. That's not even being reasonable right there. Not sure which trade is worse, honestly. Respect Leafs fans for being more and more into NHL Create a Team mode on ACGM, though. Why would the Flames not just flip Zadorov at the deadline for a better package than a more expensive older player and a prospect that has middling AHL stats and will be turning 24? Flames could get a better deal for Zadorov at 50% than anything they get back in a Brody deal at the deadline. I don't think so, buds. I think they would get pretty much the exact same return on Brody at $2.5 million that they would trading Zadorov to a team. Plus, they're getting Steves, who's not just middling AHL stats and turning 24. First of all, he's 23. And second of all, his stats are really good, and he could easily be on a different team right now. Toronto just doesn't have room to play him where he belongs to play. So, Steves will go to the Flames. He'll play in their top 9. They get a 5th-round pick. They get TJ Brody, who they can get assets back for as well. I think it's a great deal. Psh. This person's actually saying that the Kings trade is not worth it for the Leafs. They're saying, while Byfield has a lot of potential, he has not really shown enough to want to give up Nylander for at this time. Byfield is several years away, and the Leafs just don't have that much time. They need to win now. Leafs would pass on that deal. But I don't think they're taking into account that they're replacing Nylander with Patrick Kane. So you're acquiring futures, and Byfield is also able to slot in on your roster on the third line. So I don't know if they took that into account. And then, yeah, they weren't really impressed with the Calgary or the Ducks deals, but, whatever. This is my response back to the person that said Byfield absolutely has a place in the lineup, whether it's wing or center. I'm like, nope, no room, especially with Nylander coming in. It's time to move on. This person's quoting the person that said, why wouldn't the Flames just flip Zadorov at the deadline for a better package? And then they said, because Leafs fans don't actually look at the teams they propose to. And then I said, I looked into it for quite some time, actually. I analyzed the numbers and the values. It all works out, baby. And it does. Trust me. I looked into it. It's all good. This person's quoting my, I looked into it for quite some time. I actually analyzed the numbers and values. It works out. And they're like, clearly time well spent. This is another good one. Well, you failed basic math because Calgary has $2.4 million in cap and is retaining on Zadorov out of goodness of their hearts, or perhaps that fifth-round treat on top. Quantitatively or qualitatively, this trade is one-sided. I'm shocked it took so much time to analyze. Anyways, there's more comments, but those were the main good ones. But at the end of the day, I'm happy, you're happy, Leafs Nation is happy. We've got the blueprints right here to the perfect cup-winning team. And I will call up Mr. Treliving right now, and we will get this done. Have a great day, everybody, and enjoy the season.